Hello human beings, Power Gamer here. Does anyone else find it kind of funny that one of the most popular video game adaptations of a beloved sci-fi franchise is essentially a toy commercial?
Lego, one of the most beloved and successful toy companies in the world. A brand so big they have multiple television shows, a theme park, several movies, and an entire series of video games. Lego released a large number of video games in the 90s, including Lego Island and Lego Racers, but the Lego games most people know about didn't truly begin until their first licensed game, aside from these. Now, Star Wars is a franchise that needs no introduction. Everyone young and old knows about this series.
I love Star Wars. It's possibly my favorite media franchise of all time. I love the movies, the TV shows, and of course, the video games. There have been a lot of Star Wars games over the years, including Rogue Squadron, Battlefront, The Force Unleashed, and Knights of the Old Republic, but I wouldn't have been talking about Lego if I was playing those, now would I?
Lego Star Wars was certainly an ambitious title, but it's one that paid off. The game was originally developed by Traveller's Tales and Lego Interactive, with development starting in 2003. In 2004, however, Lego Interactive was shut down. A small team of employees went on to found Giant Interactive Entertainment, and they would publish all future Lego titles, including this one. The game was based on the Star Wars prequel films and was released for the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and original Xbox on March 29th, 2005, before the third prequel film was even released. That must have been interesting. The game was a huge success, selling over 3.3 million copies by May of the following year, and it led to Traveller's Tales buying Giant Interactive and renaming them to TT Publishing. The team would later release Lego Star Wars 2, which was ultimately the same game, only with a few improvements, and it was based on the original Star Wars trilogy, you know, the ones people actually like. The sequel was even more successful than the first game, selling over 1 million copies in its first week, and 8.2 million copies by 2009. So they took the two games, changed a few things, and smushed them together into Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga, released for the Wii, PS3, and Xbox 360 on November 6th, 2007, which ended up doing better than both of the previous games, selling over 15 million copies, making it the best-selling Star Wars game to this day.
Which is what I'm playing today, since it's essentially both games combined into one. I have played this game before, but I didn't grow up with it. The Lego games I mainly grew up with were Lego Indiana Jones and Lego Batman. Don't worry, I'll get to these at some point. But for now, I'm gonna play this, as not only a way to celebrate the 35th anniversary of when the original Star Wars film was released, but also as a way to celebrate the release of Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, which I am super excited for. So, let's take a trip to a galaxy far, far away, in brick form.
The game follows the same story as the first 6 movies, so I'm not going to go too in-depth. All you need to know is episodes 1, 2, and 3 are about the Jedi fighting the Sith, and episodes 4, 5, and 6 are about the Rebellion fighting the Empire. You want to know more? Just go watch the movies. The game looks fantastic. Everything is made of Legos, and it's great how much detail this has for something originally released in 2005. And the game not only has some great original music, but it also has tons of music ripped right from the movies. And if you know Star Wars, you know the music is amazing. The game also has loads of cutscenes, which recreate scenes from the movies, only with a more comedic tone, which I think really works with the game's style. There's no voice acting, characters only emote through animations and grunts. It's actually really funny, and it adds to the game's overall charm. There are a couple of sound clips ripped right from the movies though, like Han's famous and the iconic Wilhelm scream.
But there is one iconic sound clip that the game is missing. Come on, I had to make that joke.
You start out in Mos Eisley Cantina, which is the hub world. The game is split up into 6 sections, one for each of the 6 movies, and each film is split up into 6 chapters. To start, you can only play episode 1, but you unlock the rest of the movies when you beat the first chapter, so you can play those in any order you want. At its core, the game is a platformer with puzzles and combat sections. The levels are all based on various scenes from the movies, and you use the characters that appear in each one. The game is pretty much designed to be played in co-op. No matter what level you're in, there's always at least 2 characters. If you're playing alone, you have to switch between them, while in co-op, you each control 1. Some levels have more than 2 characters though, so you'd still need to switch even in co-op. You can only switch to a character you're standing next to, so if you're falling in a pit, you can't save yourself by switching to another character. Thankfully, if you're playing alone, you don't have to move every character individually. Any ones you aren't controlling will follow you, and if 2 characters are needed for a puzzle, they'll automatically do what they're supposed to do. They can't damage enemies though, you have to do that yourself. The levels are filled with all kinds of things to interact with. There's things you can build, things you can break, innocent bystanders you can kill, all kinds kinds of stuff. Breaking objects can either allow you to pass, reveal secrets, or give you pieces to build something. It wouldn't be LEGO without building, and many times you need to build objects in order to progress. All you have to do is hold down a button and it does it automatically. If only building LEGOs were this easy in real life. Interacting with pretty much anything gives you studs, and collecting them adds to your overall stud total. They have different values depending on the color. Silver are worth 10, gold are worth 100, blue are worth 1,000, and purple are worth 10,000. Studs can be used in the hub world to purchase more characters to play as, and extras, which are little bonus things you can get. Some of them are just cosmetic, like giving the characters funny masks, and some of them give you new abilities, like carrying certain things. You can play as tons of characters from all across the series. The famous ones like Luke, Yoda, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and my personal favorite, R2-D2, as well as the characters nobody knows the names of, like Plo Koon and Captain Antilles. You unlock more and more characters as you progress through the game. Ones that you use in the story are unlocked as soon as you beat their levels, and ones that you don't have to be purchased in the shop. You can only purchase certain characters after you beat certain levels, and some you can't buy until you beat every level in the game. Characters all have a variety of unique abilities that you'll need to use. You've got Jedi characters that use lightsabers, can double jump, do this double jump super attack, and use the Force on certain objects. Sith characters that can use the Force on objects Jedi can't. Characters with blasters can hit targets and use these grappling spots. Small characters can enter these passageways. Protocol droids can open these gates, although they can't jump. Astromech droids can unlock gates and float for a small period of time. Stormtroopers can enter specially marked areas. Bounty hunters can also enter special areas and throw bombs. Some characters can jump extra high, some can fly across gaps, and there's even a few that do absolutely nothing.
The large number of characters you can play as is easily one of the best things about this game. Granted, a decent amount of them are the same character with different costumes, but even with that, there's a large amount of variety.
The levels also have a lot of enemies you have to fight. Your health is represented by these 4 hearts, and you lose 1 every time you get hit. You can only refill them by getting more from defeated enemies and occasional broken objects. If you die, you explode and lose some of your studs. You respawn right where you die, so you can get them back if you're fast enough. Unless you fall into a pit, then they're gone for good. There's no lives or game over, so you can die as many times as you want and still beat the level. That might make it seem like the game is too easy, but I think it works since you are punished for dying without having to redo a bunch of stuff. The real challenge of the game is trying to find all the collectibles. There are tons of collectibles in this game. Each level has 5 types. 10 white mini-kits which build a small replica of a vehicle, a red brick which unlocks extras you can purchase, a true Jedi stud meter which you get by collecting enough studs, a blue mini-kit which you get by beating challenge mode, I'll go more into that in a bit, and 3 gold bricks which you get by completing other tasks. 1 for beating the level, 1 for getting true Jedi, and 1 for getting all the white mini-kits. The mini-kits and red bricks can be found either lying out in the open or revealed by solving some kind of puzzle. Every time you beat a level in story mode, you unlock the ability to play it in free play mode. Free play mode lets you play the level with any character you want. You select 2, and the game automatically gives you 8 more. You get at least 1 character with every special ability that you have access to, so you won't need to worry about not having the abilities needed to beat the level. You can cycle between your available characters at any time with the push of a button. Free play isn't necessary to beat the game, but it is needed if you want to get all the collectibles. Beating a level also unlocks the ability to play it in challenge mode. Challenge mode is basically free play mode, only instead of playing the level normally, you have 10 minutes to collect 10 blue mini-kits scattered throughout the level. If you beat it, you get the blue mini-kit for the level. Again, it's not necessary, but it's pretty fun.
Getting all the items and trying out all the characters is where this game's replay value really lies, which if you ask me is a much better incentive than just making the game really hard so you have to keep replaying it over and over again just to beat it.
Most characters use either a lightsaber or a blaster for combat, and they each have their own advantages. Blasters give you a ranged attack, but lightsabers let you block enemy shots and bounce them back at your opponent if you hit it at the right time. Blaster characters are better at a distance, but if they're right next to an enemy, they'll punch them, slap them, or in the case of Chewbacca, rip their arms off.
These developers care.
You can even make your own custom character in the hub world. You can only use them in free play mode, but it's still really cool, and it's a pretty in-depth character creator. You can change the head, face, body, weapon, even arm and hand colors. And this is what I came up with. Everyone, meet the most powerful Jedi who has ever lived. V Toppy 52. Most enemies go down in only 1 or 2 hits, but some of them can put up a decent fight. The Gamorrean guards can block your attacks with their sticks, and the worst enemies in the game are the Droidicas. Their lasers not only take out 2 hearts instead of 1, but they have these force fields that you need to destroy before you can damage them. You can destroy it immediately with a double jump lightsaber attack, but they're still a pain to kill. Every once in a while you can find this power-up that makes you move faster and lets you collect studs that are further away from you. There's also a number of things you can ride on. Your number of hearts changes depending on what vehicle you're in, and you jump out when you die. You can ride iconic Star Wars vehicles like AT-STs and speeder bikes, animals like banthas, tauntauns, and varactals. No, I did not need to look that up. Yes, I am a nerd. And even random things like this little cart. This did not need to be in the game, but I'm very happy it is. But those are just the normal levels. There's also levels that take place entirely in vehicles. These levels act the same, only with a much heavier emphasis on combat. It's still pretty simple, but there's a lot more enemies you have to kill, and it's a lot easier to die. Though part of that is because you take damage if you slam into anything. Thankfully, you shouldn't have too much trouble aiming, since your laser blasts automatically lock onto enemies. This applies to the blasters, too. Certain levels even let you use proton torpedoes and bombs, which you grab with a tow cable to blow up larger enemies and obstacles. The vehicle levels are fun, but it can be tricky trying to grab hearts or studs, since the controls are a lot heavier and it's hard to be precise. Especially when the objects are right next to a wall, dang it. While I'm on the subject of the controls, for the most part they feel good. But since some actions are on the same button, it can be a bit annoying at times when you want to switch characters and end up jumping in a vehicle or build something instead of pulling a lever. It's not that bad, but it is something I noticed the more I played. Also, this happened. What was that? I'd say my only real complaint with this game is that the lighting can be a bit of an issue. There are many moments where it's so dark you can barely see anything, and I wound up stuck for several minutes because of this. Although I think this is only an issue with the Wii version of the game. Other versions seem to be fine. I guess that's what I get for picking the least powerful console of the three.
But there is one thing the Wii version has that the other versions don't. You can swing the Wii remote to attack with a lightsaber. It's ultimately pointless, but kinda neat. Aside from moments where you just slightly move it and attack something by accident.
A more minor complaint I have is that Yoda is sadly one of the worst characters to play as just because of how slow he is. He moves faster with his lightsaber out, but he's still slower than most of the other characters. It's a shame, because he's one of my favorite characters in the franchise. He does easily have the best death sound in the game, though. There's also a couple of glitches I ran into. These studs just randomly disappeared for no reason, and at the end of this level, this lever wouldn't let me pull it for some reason, so I had to start the entire level all over again. That was annoying. The game also has a number of boss fights, and most of them are really easy. Some of them you just need to hit enough times, while others you need to do something to make them vulnerable. The problem is that any of the ones that are a lightsaber duel, you can just spam the double jump attack and they go down easily. It's kind of pathetic. When you beat all the levels for one movie, you unlock Super Story, which is just trying to beat all the levels as fast as possible. Alright, on to the actual levels, starting with everyone's favorite Star Wars movie, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Every level has its own opening crawl, just like in the movies, which is pretty cool. And it's a solid way of telling the story for people who don't know it. Chapter 1, Negotiations. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi arrive on the Trade Federation ship. It's really simple, but it's the first level in the game, so that makes sense. Chapter 2, Invasion of Naboo. They arrive on the planet's surface and meet the most beloved character in the series, Jar Jar Binks. Again, the level's fairly simple, and it showcases characters having different abilities. Chapter 3, Escape from Naboo. Queen Padme Amidala and Captain Panaka are assisted by the Jedi in escaping the planet. Chapter 4, Mos Espa Pod Race, the first vehicle level. You just have to avoid obstacles and use speed boosts to get first place. Thankfully, if you lose, you only have to restart from the final lap, which is good for me since I got stuck on this rock. Chapter 5, Retake Theed Palace. Invade the palace in the hopes of recapturing it from the Trade Federation. This level has the most playable characters so far, and it's pretty cool because of it. There's a large variety of puzzles that take advantage of each character's abilities, and Captain Panaka has a bigger role here than he does in the actual movie. Finally, Chapter 6, Darth Maul. The only part of the movie people actually like. This is the game's first real boss fight. Take out these droids and use the Force to send blocks flying back at him, chase Darth Maul down, take out some more droids, and finally face off in a lightsaber duel. The story ends with Qui-Gon's death and Naboo celebrating their freedom from the Trade Federation. Next up is Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, my least favorite of the movies. Chapter 1, Bounty Hunter Pursuit. After foiling an assassination attempt on Padme, chase down Zam Wessel in a speeder only for her to be killed. This level is a pain because of how dark it is, and it took me a solid 10 minutes to figure out how this Steam puzzle worked. Chapter 2, Discovery on Kamino. Obi-Wan and his droid R4 discover an army of clone troopers being created for the Republic. Make your way through and chase down the bounty hunter Jango Fett. Chapter 3, Droid Factory. Obi-Wan follows Jango to the planet Geonosis, but winds up captured, so Anakin and Padme have to save him. This is a really cool level. I love the aesthetic of the factory. Chapter 4, Jedi Battle. It's the Battle of Geonosis. Destroy the droids in the arena, save Padme, Anakin, and Obi-Wan, and take out Jango Fett. This level is non-stop action, and it's a total blast. Chapter 5, Gunship Cavalry. Hands down, my least favorite level in the game. You have to ride in a Republic gunship, and it's an absolute pain. There are so many enemies and obstacles to avoid. It's just really annoying, especially if you're trying to get true Jedi. You've got to be kidding me. I was so close. Chapter 6, Count Dooku. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and later Yoda confront Count Dooku. You have to hit him with your lightsaber while also switching characters to avoid his force lightning. The story ends with Count Dooku cackling with his master, Darth Sidious. Now on to Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Chapter 1, Battle over Coruscant. A pretty standard vehicle level, just move forward and shoot everything you can. Chapter 2, Chancellor in Peril. Fight through the ship and kill Count Dooku to save Chancellor Palpatine. The Count Dooku fight in this level is exactly the same as the last one, only no Yoda. Chapter 3, General Grievous. Obi-Wan faces off against Grievous, the leader of the droid army, along with clone Commander Cody, who wasn't really involved with the fight in the movie.
Yeah, remember how I said this game was designed to be played in co-op? Well, because of that, some levels aren't completely accurate to the movie, since there have to be at least 2 characters. That's not a bad thing. I just find that interesting.
After Grievous is killed, we head into Chapter 4, Defense of Kashyyyk. Palpatine declares Order 66, turning the clones against the Jedi. So now Yoda and his Wookiee friend Chewbacca have to fight both clones and droids. One thing I like about fighting the clone troopers and the stormtroopers later on is that you can use the Force to spin their heads around. And no, it's not just their helmets, it's their entire head, as we see in the next level. Speaking of which, Chapter 5, Ruin of the Jedi. Obi-Wan and Yoda return to the destroyed Jedi Temple and discover not only is Palpatine Darth Sidious, but Anakin has turned to the dark side. Finally, Chapter 6, Darth Vader. Obi-Wan confronts Anakin on the volcanic planet of Mustafar, and the two have their final confrontation. Sort of. This is another example of the game needing 2 players, so it derives from the movie. So instead of a climactic fight between 2 former friends that leads all across the planet, it's essentially them just running through this base trying not to get killed. This is probably the hardest level in the game, since falling in lava actually sends you back to the start of whatever room you're in, which makes sense given how this was the final level of the original game. And it all ends with the real final showdown. You each have 10 hearts, and you can play as whichever character you want. If you're playing single player, you just fight the computer, but if you're playing in co-op, you fight each other.
This is actually really cool. Again, this was the final level of the original game, so the idea of playing through an entire game with another person and the final boss being each other is awesome. It doesn't actually matter who wins, but it's still pretty fun.
Obi-Wan defeats Anakin, and the story and prequel trilogy end with Padme dying after giving birth to Luke and Leia, and Anakin being fully transformed into Darth Vader. That's the end of the first half, now on to the second. Starting with Episode 4, A New Hope, my personal favorite of the Star Wars movies. Chapter 1, Secret Plans. Run through the rebel ship fighting off stormtroopers, and send the Death Star plans down to Tatooine.
And it's here we get to see one of the most beautiful things you have ever witnessed.
Chapter 2, Through the Junlin Waste. Luke and Obi-Wan have to find the missing R2-D2 and C-3PO while avoiding the Tusken Raiders. When they reach Obi-Wan's house, he gives Luke Anakin's lightsaber. Chapter 3, Mos Eisley Spaceport. Arrive at the cantina, meet Han Solo and Chewbacca, Greedo shoots first, and fight off the stormtroopers as you escape in the Millennium Falcon. Chapter 4, Rescue the Princess. This level introduces the greatest thing in the game. Hat machines! You have to use them to get stormtrooper helmets so you can pass through these gates, but you lose them if you get hit. Chapter 5, Death Star Escape. After saving Leia, take out as many stormtroopers as possible in order to get back to the Falcon. I love how this level perfectly recreates scenes from the movie. It's awesome. Oh yeah, and Obi-Wan dies. That's important, I guess. Chapter 6, Rebel Attack. The iconic Death Star battle. Destroy turrets, TIE fighters, and even play the beloved trench run scene. A word of advice, don't move to the side. The fighter in the middle literally can't hit you. Also, make sure you don't miss your proton torpedo or you have to go back and forth through the trench again. Anyway, the Death Star blows up, and Luke and Han are rewarded with medals. Not Chewie, though. Now on to Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. We're in the home stretch here, people. Chapter 1, Hoth Battle. It's the Battle of Hoth. Just take out all the ships and AT-ATs. Chapter 2, Escape from Echo Base. Han, Leia, Chewie, and 3PO have to fend off the invading snow troopers in order to escape. Chapter 3, Falcon Flight. Fly the Millennium Falcon through an asteroid belt. This level is brutal. There are so many enemies and obstacles to avoid. And you have to finish it by blowing up this giant asteroid with proton torpedoes, and it's very easy to miss because the thing keeps spinning around. I'd say the odds of getting true Jedi on this level are about 3,720 to 1. Chapter 4, Dagobah. Luke takes R2 to the swamp planet of Dagobah to train with Yoda. This level is interesting since it's when Luke switches from using a blaster to a lightsaber, and I like how he gets better with the Force as the level goes on and his training continues. That's pretty cool. What's not cool are all the bats. They are a pain, and they're freaking everywhere. Why does a Star Wars game even have bats? There's also this part right here where where you have to use Luke to lower the platforms and have R2 get on them. Problem is, you can only lower the platforms with Yoda on your back, and he jumps away every time you switch to R2. This is the only part of the game where you really need a second player. Other than that, we get the illusion Darth Vader fight in the cave, and even the amazing scene where Yoda lifts Luke's X-Wing out of the swamp. Chapter 5, Cloud City Trap. Luke and R2 go to Cloud City, where Luke has his fight with Darth Vader. Again, R2 wasn't present for this in the movie, but they had to change it to make it playable with 2 people. Vader cuts off Luke's hand and reveals that he's his father in one of my favorite cutscenes in the game. Chapter 6, Betrayal over Bespin. The others arrive on Cloud City, where Jango Fett's son Boba freezes Han to take him to Jabba the Hutt, and the others are taken hostage by Vader. Lando frees them, and they escape with the help of R2. They also go back and save Luke. Luke gets a new hand, and Lando and Chewie fly off to find Han. Before we get to the final movie, I'd like to mention there's also a few bonus levels. The original pod race, so this is one of the things they changed for the complete saga. It's the same level, only each section has a time limit. Yeah, the new version's better. Anakin's Flight, which is Anakin destroying the Trade Federation's base in Episode 1. The original Gunship Cavalry, which has you move back and forth, and dying sends you back to the start of the section. Wow, I didn't think this level could be worse. A New Hope, which is the opening of A New Hope, only from Darth Vader's perspective, which is cool. And 2 Lego City levels where you explore the city and collect all the studs that sadly don't add to your stud total. Now we're finally on to Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Chapter 1, Jabba's Palace. Luke and friends invade Jabba's palace on Tatooine to rescue Han. They get captured and kill the Rancor. Chapter 2, The Great Pit of Carkoon. Escape from being held captive and fight Jabba's guards before releasing Leia and destroying the ship. And Boba goes down here just as easily as he did in the movie. Don't worry, he's fine. Chapter 3, Speeder Showdown. Use ATSTs to destroy these towers, and then chase down stormtroopers on speeder bikes. After that, you get this segment where you destroy this base that did not happen in the movie, and this is where I ran into that lever glitch I mentioned earlier. Chapter 4, The Battle of Endor. After meeting a group of teddy bear creatures called Ewoks, Han, Leia, Chewie, R2, 3PO, and their new friend Wicket defeat the stormtroopers and blow up the shield generator for the second Death Star. Yeah, there's a second Death Star now. Again, if you want to know the plot more, go watch the movies, or just read a plot synopsis on Wikipedia. Chapter 5, Jedi Destiny. Luke confronts his father and refuses to give in to the dark side, so Emperor Palpatine attacks, causing Vader to step in. This is probably the most different level in the game in terms of connection to the movies. Instead of Luke fighting Darth Vader again, it's Luke and Darth Vader fighting the Emperor. He is the most difficult boss in the game since he has 20 hearts, but he's still not too hard if you're persistent, and he's tons of fun to fight. After you defeat him, he zaps Luke again, causing Vader to throw him down the shaft. Luke takes off Vader's mask so he can see who he truly is right as he dies, and Darth Vader once again becomes Anakin Skywalker. Finally on to the last level, Chapter 6, Into the Death Star.
This might seem like a nitpick, but I think it would have been cooler to have the Death Star level be Chapter 5 and the Emperor fight to be Chapter 6. The Emperor is the true final boss of the game, so I think it would have been better to end it with him. I know that's not the order it happens in the movies, but come on, this game takes enough creative liberties, it would have been fine.
Anyways, this level is Lando Calrissian and the Millennium Falcon leading the rebels against the second Death Star. Take out these Star Destroyers and fly into the heart of the space station. This would be a lot more fun if I could actually see the enemies. Get to the main reactor and use a proton torpedo to blow it up. Alright, it's time to go. Fly back through the station as it explodes, and boom! The game ends with Luke saying goodbye to his father, and everyone celebrating the defeat of the Empire. And Luke even sees Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin as Force Ghosts. Yes, Yoda dies. They never explain it in the game. The Force Ghosts actually become purchasable for a whopping 1 million studs. They're so expensive because they are absolutely the best characters in the game. They are literally invisible to enemies. But I did not feel the need to farm all those studs just so I could get them for this review. I've been at this game for long enough. There is one character that's still locked though. That's because you can find a trailer for Lego Indiana Jones, and if you watch it, he becomes unlockable. Honestly, a really cool Easter egg, but it doesn't matter too much because the game is finally over.
Star Wars The Complete Saga is tons of fun, regardless of whether or not you're a Star Wars fan. If you have a weekend to kill, grab a friend and give it a run-through. I can guarantee you'll have a fun time. But for now, I'm pretty exhausted, so I'm just gonna relax with a nice drink.
Ah!